Hi, I'm Ames Asbell from Texas State University, and I'm here with you to work on Mazas 26. We're going to work on the fourth section, measures 53 through 76. This is another section that's repeated, so we're really only looking at the material in measures 53 through 64. And those 11 bars are repeated at the end of this section, just exactly as they appear the first time. So we have a lot of double stops in this section, but since we've already talked about how to practice double stops in the last tutorial, we won't do too much of that here. So this is really a mixture of the double stop idea with the character, that kind of dance-like character from the opening section. So we're going to have to work on how to blend the two together, how to get from one to the other. So the thing that's really going to be of the essence here is bow management for most of this. You'll see there are lots of sforzandi, decrescendo to piano, and then followed by a subito forte. So we need to really make sure that we're paying attention to the dynamics and doing everything that's on the page. After the piano section, we'll probably need to reset the bow for the forte. So there are going to be lots of little resets in here. And then at the end of this section, measures 61 and 62, there are some challenging double stops there. Well, 61 through 64, really, there are some challenging double stops. So I'll just talk you through this passage. When we get to that point, we'll talk about what's challenging there. All right? We'll do a little playthrough at the end of this section as well, slow playthrough, to bring it all together. So first of all, we've got a double stop here in measure 53 of C and B flat. And the challenge here is, as you go through the bar, is you're playing 3 notes with this C held on the bottom, 3 double stops, and then we've got to shift to first position and match the same C. That's really important. So using our single line practice is really good here. We can play just the bottom line and make sure our C is staying the same. Hard not to play both lines, isn't it? But that, you can really use that to check, and you can also bow the top line to make sure that those notes are in tune and that your line is melodic. So we're going to play that, and after the sforzando, I would encourage you to really lighten the bow and travel closer to the fingerboard for that. The next thing is to reset. We're going to reset just a little lower in the bow and a little closer to the bridge for that forte dance-like figure. So that's the idea we're going to follow through these first 8 bars of this section. The next one is easier, starting in measure 55, because we've got open C. Again to the fingerboard, reset, and then that's pretty much it. This idea repeats itself. The next 4 bars are the same. So again, third position, piano, up, up, then resetting piano again, and reset. Okay, so that's a pretty straightforward section. There's a lot of little places that you need to reset your bow. At every subito forte, you need to reset and make sure you're really in the right place, part of the bow, to play crisply. And I think another challenge is making sure that on your up-ups, that those sound exactly like the staccato notes that came before. They're not any longer, they're not any different. Okay? Then the last 4 bars of this, we really have to be sure that we are playing our double stops in tune. This is a much more melodic section, much more connected. You'll notice that we don't have, in 61, we don't have staccato markings. We have tenuto lines on the notes. So these are very long. So I use my building block practice and my single line practice, as we talked about in the last tutorial, to really make sure that this is beautiful. The thing that's challenging is at the end of 61, you have a half-step shift to second position. And then in 62, you have to play half steps. It's called this the Star Trek finger pattern, because you've got a half step and a half step. And you'll see this as we play through this. We're going to play slowly through these 4 bars. So in measure 61, we start with A and F. Then find your E flat. I'll do that better. Here's E flat. And then we have half step shift. The whole thing goes just a half step back, and now Star Trek. That's really difficult to play in tune. You can hear I'm actually not doing it very well today. So that's really, really important that that finger pattern be like this. So as you noticed in 61, I didn't do the bowing. I just played separate bows, so that's the separate bow practice. But once you're ready, you can do the ups, just making sure that you budget about 1/3 of the bow per double stop. So that'll look a little bit like this. Okay, then at the end of measure 62, we're shifting to first position, finding C and adding A. Into and a staccato down bow. Imaginary string there. Okay, so that's definitely a more challenging set of measures. That's the challenge in this bit, measure 61 through 64. So I would really make sure that I play that slowly, do a lot of building block practice and some single line practice. You won't need that as much in the first part of this excerpt. All right, so now let's do a slow playthrough of this whole passage. We're actually just going to do measure 53 through measure 64 because it, as we said before, then repeats. All right, so I'll count you off in case you want to play with me. So here we go, starting in measure 53. 1 and 2 and ready, play. Last measure again that didn't speak very well for me. So that's a kind of a practice version to get you going. I would really just be careful about pulse in this. You'll want to play faster when you're playing forte and slower when you're playing piano. So that's a real challenge, making sure that you're practicing with metronome, that you're playing absolutely steady all the way through. That's a mistake a lot of people will make, so don't make that mistake. So the things to look out for, playing in tune, making sure you have that staccato versus legato style, making sure you have a steady pulse, and that you're playing everything as printed on the page. All right, if you do some work on the double stops, this isn't too bad of a section. So good luck, and we'll see you next time.